Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. I hope that you are all good. In today's video I'm going to be doing a pretty pink winter acrylic design set, so I hope you all enjoy watching. I'm working on my Glamour Liz practice hand. I do have a discount code for Glamour Liz, which is always in the description box below, so do check that out. I've already applied some tips and a thin clear base so we can jump straight into the design. So to begin with, I'm just going to be applying a thin layer of CJP Fantasy to the entire nail. And I'm just keeping this layer nice and thin because it's just there as a little bit of background for the glitter mix that I'm going to be using. So I don't want to add too much bulk with this one. I'm just popping that wash of colour down. I'm just making sure to keep it neat around the cuticle and sidewall area. You don't want to get any on the skin. And then I'm going to come in with this gorgeous glitter mix. So this is from Charlie's Nail Art. It's called their Unicorn Tinsel Strands. And I'm just picking that up with a small wet bead of my CJP Crystal Glass acrylic and then tapping it straight onto the nail. I'm keeping my brush full of monomer so that I'm able to move those glitter pieces into place easily. And this now is just going to be a full glitter nail to begin with. So I'm just coming in with small beads of acrylic and then dipping into that glitter until the nail is entirely covered. And this glitter isn't like a full coverage glitter, so that's why I wanted that layer of colour underneath, just so you wouldn't be able to see any of the natural nail or the clear tip. So you could pop any colour underneath this to create different effects. Once I've got all of my glitter in place, I will just leave this to fully set before encapsulating further along in the video. And then we're going to move on to the ring finger. So the ring finger I'm going to do a marble on. So I've double dipped into CJP Fantasy and CJP Tooth Fairy. And I've just placed them down at the cuticle area and blended them out just to get a nice neat cuticle, so I haven't got to worry about getting that with my actual marble. And then I'm coming in with really wet beads of Fantasy, Carbon Grey, Tooth Fairy and Milky Pink. And then I'm just placing them down and running my brush through them. I wanted this to be quite a wishy-washy, messy, soft looking marble. I didn't want any of the lines to look too defined or anything like that. I just wanted this to have a really soft, gentle look to it so that it's a bit of a base for some glitters that I'm going to come in with. So I'm not worrying too much about the colours running into each other, and I'm just gently manipulating them together. I'm just going to continue doing this until the entire nail is covered, and I'm just working up and down from one side to the other just to make sure that those sidewalls do get fully covered. But if you do find that you've got any areas that are missed, then you can just come in with a little bit of acrylic, just like I did here. I'm then going to come straight over the top of that marble with some glitter. So this glitter is another one from Charlie's Nail Art. This is Footprints in the Snow, and it's a fine glitter mix with lots of chunky snowflakes, circles and a few little hexes as well, I believe. So I'm mainly picking up the snowflakes from this glitter mix and just placing them down on the nail, and then I'm just dipping in and trying to pick up a couple of the dots and a few of the finer particles just to add that little extra sparkle. I'm just using my wet brush. I'm not picking these up with any additional acrylic because it's not really needed. And then again, I will encapsulate this later on. So we're then going to move on to the middle finger, which is going to begin with as a 3-colour ombre. So I'm starting off at the tip of the nail with Carbon Grey, and I just painted this on a little bit too wet. So I come in with another bead here just to build up the colour. So I'm trying to fade this back as best as possible and then just having a thin wash of the colour. I don't want to add too much bulk with my colours because again, I'm going to be coming in with some glitters. So I'm just trying to paint that colour on to build up the coverage. And also, because it's a 3-colour ombre, I may have to come in with different colours at different times until I'm happy with it. So I like to keep my layers thin so that if I do need to come in with any more of the grey further on, then I can. I am, however, going to allow that Carbon Grey to set before coming in with the next colour. So while that's drying, I'm going to move on to the pointer finger. Now the pointer finger, I started off by putting a thin layer of Fantasy down because I was going to do another ombre, but I then decided that I'd rather do some imprinting with some netting in this nail. I haven't actually done that in a while, and it was a bit spare at the moment, so I wasn't 100% happy with it. But what I'm basically doing is putting down a layer of that fantasy and blending it back, because I'm still going to come over the top of the imprinting with some glitter, so I don't want there to be a harsh line. And then just before you imprint with your netting, you want to make sure that that acrylic is nice and smooth, and you do also want to allow it to dry a little. You don't want it to fully set in place. You just want to wait until it starts to go matte. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip my netting in some clear acrylic just to help stop it sticking in there. And once that acrylic has set up a little bit, I'm simply going to press it down into the acrylic. And as you can see here, it just imprints into the acrylic and creates a quite random looking look. And then I'm going to allow that to dry before coming in with my colour over the top. So I've moved back onto the middle finger and I'm coming in with Tooth Fairy next. So I'm just placing that down, blending out the back of it and then feathering it over the carbon grey. Just really using light strokes of my brush to feather out that colour. And then I'm just coming in with a little bit more just to help build up the colour. When I'm doing an ombre with colours that I haven't ombre together before or in a long time, I like to work thin with them just so I can see how well they work together or how much they're going to cover. So again, I'm going to let the Tooth Fairy set before coming in with the third colour. So I've popped it back to the pointer finger, and I'm coming in with just really wet beads of the carbon grey and washing it over that netting design. Really trying to work it into the imprints, and it doesn't matter if it looks messy at the moment because we will file off the excess and it looks a lot more cleaner. It didn't go 100% perfectly, but I'm glad I had a go at doing it. It's definitely something I'm going to try to do a little bit more often because it's a look I quite like. So I've jumped back again to the ring finger, lots of jumping backwards and forwards in this set. And now I'm coming in with my CJP Fantasy. So I've placed that bead down at the cuticle area. I'm just making sure to get a nice neat cuticle, and then I'm feathering that down to go over the Tooth Fairy. Keeping my side walls nice and clean, and I'm just going to come in with another bead of the Fantasy just to build up the coverage a little bit more. So I place that bead down, tapping it up towards the cuticle, and then I'm just going to feather the top of the bead down. Now at this point is where if you feel as though you need to come in with any more of one particular colour, you can. So I'm just going to come in to start off with a little bit more Tooth Fairy just to perfect the blend, and then I do come in as well with a little bit more of the carbon grey after this as well. And that's why I like to keep those layers of colour thin, so it does mean you can come back with more colour if you need to without ending up with a too bulky nail, because this nail has also got to have some glitter popped on and encapsulated. Now that I'm happy with the ombre, I'm going to come in with that same Footprints in the Snow glitter mix, but to start off with, I've just picked up more of the dots from the glitter mix and I'm just placing them between where the colours merge together, and I'm then going to pick up some of the snowflakes and set them down on top of that. And I'm again just using my wet brush to do this because we've been working with the acrylic underneath and it is still a little bit tacky. It will hold the snowflakes in place, but you can also just pop a wash of clear acrylic over them as well, just to hold them down until encapsulating. Just dabbing on some of the finer pieces here to make sure it's super sparkly. So I'm now going to jump back to the little finger and encapsulate. So I'm encapsulating with my CJP crystal glass. I've started roughly halfway to 3/4 of the way down the nail, blended out the back of the bead, and then I'm just walking that acrylic down towards the free edge, trying to keep it all as smooth and as neat as possible. And I'm just patting and pressing that acrylic into place, trying to build up my strength and structure, and also making sure that all those glitter pieces are covered in the clear acrylic. So I'm then going to work my way down the nail. So I place my next bead down, blend it out slightly at the back, and then I'm just pulling it over the top of that previous bead of acrylic, focusing the bulk of the product in the center of the nail. Then with the cuticle bead, I'm placing it down at that cuticle area, tapping it up into place and then leaving the bulk of it in that area to build up our apex. So I'm just pulling down the top of the nail, the top of the acrylic, sorry, just to blend that out. And then if I feel that anywhere on the nail needs a little bit more acrylic, I will come in with small beads to do that. So I just popped a little bit more on there at the tip area. I then encapsulated the other two nails in exactly the same way off camera. I wanted to get all of the encapsulating done before it comes to filing this nail, because otherwise you'll find that you get a lot of the dust on top of your design, and then it will end up encapsulated in. So it's just easier to get that encapsulating done out of the way. And then here you can see I'm just filing over the top of that nail to remove the excess grey acrylic, being really careful that I don't over file. So I'm really taking my time to have a look at what areas need the filing. It looks super vigorous and it does not look like I'm being careful in the slightest, because I have sped the video up quite a lot. But I am just stopping here and there and checking the nail to make sure that I'm happy with it. Just refining the sidewall slightly. I'm not quite sure why I did that. But here you can see there was just a slight area that still had quite a bit of the grey acrylic there. So I'm just filing that just to get it all nice and crisp looking. You want to be able to see that imprinted pattern nicely. I'm then just going to scrub away all of that dust so we can continue creating the design on this finger. So what I'm going to do, just wash over the nail with a little bit of monomer just to make sure I'm happy with it. Like I said, I wasn't 100%. I felt as though I could have filed it a little bit more. And I think I wished I'd put the Tooth Fairy rather than the carbon grey down. I just think it would have looked a little bit more prettier and tied in with the set a little bit more. But anyway, moving on, I'm coming in with Fantasy at that cuticle area. Again, a really thin wash of colour because it's just a background for the glitter. And then I'm going to be using both the glitters that I've used in the set so far. So I'm coming in with those tinsel strands first of all, just placing them down on that nail bed area and fading them slightly over the imprinted design. Just using my wet brush to nudge them around into place. Just trying to make that glitter fade look appealing to the eye, but I'm not worrying too much about creating full coverage with the glitter because we're then coming over the top with the footprints in the snow glitter mix. So I'm just mainly focusing on putting some of the snowflakes down, and then I'm dipping back in to pick up some of the larger dot pieces. And I'm just using my wet brush to do this because, as I said before, we don't want to add too much unnecessary bulk to the nail. And then once I am happy with this, I will also encapsulate this in my CJP crystal glass as well. Once I had finished encapsulating off camera, I did also file and buff all of the nails into shape and made sure to give them a good scrub ready for some stamping. So I'm going to be just popping on some snowflakes. I simply just showed you me placing them down rather than all the stamping steps, just because this video was already quite long. But I have got lots of other videos up on my channel, especially I think the one before the last one, which shows a bit more in-depth stamping with this exact same stamping plate. But I'm just popping down some snowflakes and a little swirl on the pointer and the ring finger, just to add a little bit of an extra wintry vibe. This particular plate is my new one from Clear Jelly Stamper, and I have to say I'm absolutely loving it. I've already used these snowflakes I think 2 or 3 times. They are just so pretty. And this is what the nails looked like when I had finished designing them. I'm now ready to come in and top coat. So I'm going to be top coating using my CJP tack free top gloss. So I'm just going to apply a nice even layer of this to all of the nails, and I will then pop them in to cure for a full 60 seconds. And that, guys, is the end of the video. I really hope you all enjoyed watching, as they were quite a fun set to sit and do. If you did enjoy the video, then please give it a thumbs up or let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And I shall hopefully see you all again soon in the next video. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.